Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the essential reason once again. So if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. And if you like this video, please give me a like. And if you can relate to this topic, please let me know down below in the comment. So today we're gonna be doing another one of those quarantine series. So usually what I do with the quarantine series, if you haven't been here, is I talk about a specific topic where I usually expand about this topic related to my life experience. So our topic for today is I'm gonna be talking about my identity crisis going on in the US, or my experience with identity crisis in the US or while living in the US. So I've encountered a lot of identity crisis, whether it's about being, a female who dressed up like a boy. My mom always tells me that she wanted a boy, but I turned out to be a girl. So it's like, there's already, as you can see, I have an identity crisis. What am I supposed to be? Who am I supposed to be? Right? So my mom ultimately, she wanted a boy. So no wonder why people wonder why I always, dress up like a boy or like a tomboy, right? Like I'm a cross-dresser, as they call it, right? So it's because, I try so hard, right, to please, my mom, so I can be pleasing in her eyes. But again, no matter what I do, it's like, I just need to learn to accept who I am, right? I need to accept that, yeah, some people may not understand, what I'm going through, but I just need to learn to accept who I am. So, like, when in terms of me, in terms of my mom wanting a boy, always telling me, it's kind of stuck in my head. So, it's stuck in my head because family is usually the biggest influence in our life. So starting with family, I'm already having an identity crisis, right? I am like what I considered a black sheep. So someone who is not, I guess I would define black sheep as someone who doesn't fit in the family, right? So my mom ultimately, she wanted a boy, but unfortunately God gave her a girl. So now she's had to deal with that because in Filipino culture, right? In Filipino culture, there's always a distinction between boys and girls. So there's a distinction on how parents, right, treat boy when they have a kid who's a boy and a kid who's a girl. Usually, when you have a boy, like the Filipino parents are less strict on them, right? Because it is said, right? It is said uh, by some parents that they are, more independent. They can protect themselves more compared to a girl. They have a potential of being raped or, being exposed to teenage pregnancy, something like that. Like, it's like parents are more strict with them because something bad could happen to them, right? Compared to a boy who, they are less strict because it is known that boys can protect themselves from, people, because even in science they are known to be stronger than girls. So that's why, and this whole idea of Filipino parents being stricter on girls, it's hard. I had to grow up with that. My mom always being strict and stuff. So another identity crisis that I experience is about being Filipino and being American. So growing up in America, coming here as a 10 years old, as a child, I was 10 years old, and so basically, like, I was going through identity crisis because one of the things that I struggled with in the United States is speaking English, language barrier, right? So I tried so hard to fit in. Whenever you have identity crisis, you always try so hard to fit in. So, there are many times where I've encountered, right? So, in terms of Filipinos and in terms of American, right? So, in terms of Filipino people, they always say, like, Filipinos in the US specifically, they always say, like, oh, you're not Filipino. You're not Filipino enough. You grew up here. You sound so American. You have the American attitude. My mom even says that. Like, I have the American attitude. I'm not Filipino. Like, I'm starting to lose the Filipino culture. But what my mom doesn't realize is that I'm going through this identity crisis, right? I'm suffering with this crisis. Am I Filipino? Am I American? Am I both? Or am I alien? What is it? Right? So whenever I'm at home, I am exposed to the Filipino culture, right? My mom always telling me this and that. As a Filipino, you're not supposed to act this way and that way. Blah, 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 blah. But in America, going to school, my experience was that, oh, you're not American because your accent sounds so weird, your color, right? They tell me to go home, back to the Philippines, go back where you came from, right? You don't speak English properly. It's like, you see, there's a struggle with this identity, right? So, like, whether I'm Filipino or whether I'm American or whether I'm both, so what exactly am I, right? Like, at school, I was getting bullied for not, adapting to the American culture. And because at the same time, I was stuck with this Filipino culture where my mom was so strict. I mean, I understand about why she was being strict, right? But in America, they have a different point of view when it comes to, parents letting their child sleep over to another, to a friend's home, right? Something could happen. That's the idea. Something could happen to them while staying at their friend's house. So that's why my mom never lets me sleep over. But for the Americans, that's a normal thing. Nothing will happen. I feel like this is the term that, we all like to overthink. We like to predict what's gonna happen. Predicting for the worst, right? Thinking of the worst, basically. So that's why, like, whenever somebody have a sleepover and they ask me to sleep over, my mom's like, no, you can't go there, something might happen. Or no, you can't go there because, you always have to stay with your family. And in the Filipino culture, it's always about family this, family that. Family's more important than your friends, right? Family this, family that. Sometimes I'm getting sick of my family because there's so much, things going on. Like, what am I? Am I supposed to be, in my, at school, they always tell me to adapt to the American culture, but at home, my mom always tells me that I have to be Filipino. I have to act Filipinos. Like, it's hard. Like, it's like I'm playing two games right here. Playing two personalities, right? have two personality, my Filipino personality, my American personality, and there's even a third personality, right? So what is that third personality? So the third personality is being Asian, right? So here in the United States, Filipinos, especially second generation, what I mean by second generation Filipinos are Filipinos who are born in the United States. So me, I'm a first generation, but I'm a first generation who can relate to the second generation because I came here when I was young. So I know what kind of crisis they're going through because I've been there, right? I've been in their shoes. It's like our parents, whenever someone say that, I'm not Filipino or I'm not American, and when I go home, my mom always tells me that you're lucky to be here, you're privileged to be here, she always tells me that I'm privileged, I'm lucky, that everybody wants to come here, and that she didn't have this kind of lifestyle. Back in the Philippines, she had to work hard, she had to do this and that, but she does not know what I'm going through behind the scenes at school. She does not know my point of view, right? She does not know what's going on at school, and sometimes she's even said some hurtful things that maybe, I don't know, because she has, she's been working a lot, so I can understand. She's tired, and I guess because, of this reason, right? Because of these, reason, sometimes it causes me or any person who lives in the United States who came here as a young or second generation Filipino, they always experience the idea that we're privileged to come here, everybody wants to come here. It's like, it's true that we are probably privileged to be here, but again, we suffer this identity crisis where, at school we get bullied because we're thought to be American. We're thought to, bow down or say the Pledge of Allegiance to America. Right at home, it's like you're Filipino, you're adapting to the American culture. At school, it's like it's all about American. It's all about American culture. At home, it's all about Filipino culture. It's like you're starting to adapt the American culture, but I live in America, and Americans tell me I'm not American enough, and then Filipinos tell me I'm not Filipino enough because I don't speak Tagalog well, right? So exactly what am I, right? And even as an Asian, there's always like this controversy of are we Asians or are we Pacific Islander, right? That's the controversy among Filipinos, right, here in the United States. That's a controversy, like a big controversy. Like, are we Filipinos or are we Pacific Islander? It's like everything, under the category of any umbrella, like whether I'm Asian, whether I'm Pacific Islander, there's always that negative connotation. Like, I'm not, I'm Asian, but I'm not smart enough to be Asian, so I don't deserve to be Asian, right? I'm not considered Asian because I'm not as smart as an Asian, right? There's like that stereotype, you experience some sort of racism, right? Racism is something that I've always experienced here in the United States. So it's like you're experiencing racism, at school, but at home, you're also experiencing racism from your mom because, what do you call this? Because, like, oh, I'm turning American when I'm supposed to be Filipino. But then when I go to school, it's like, you're not American, right? You're Filipino, you're Asian, Or sometimes people say, oh, you're not Asian because your eyes are too big, right? It's like there's a lot of things going on, and like, I'm confused, on what I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be, right? And because Filipinos, there's like a wide, problem with them, because sometimes we look like Mexicans, so Filipinos who like see me, Filipinos in the US, they're like, oh, you're not Filipino, you don't look Filipino. I'm like, okay, so how is a Filipino supposed to look like? Right, you look like you're Mexican. I'm like, okay, I guess that's better. At least they can accept me. Maybe not. I guess it's probably the same for them. Right, especially second generation, first generation who came here as a young age. It's right. Even then, there's a wide gap. There's a wide gap between first generation and second generation. So that's why my mom is considered to be a first generation. What I mean by first generation is those people who came here at a certain age. So my mom came here, like she was like 40 something, right? So 42 or something like that. So she came here at a certain age. So when you come here, or at a certain age, you already have a point of view, right? Your mind is already made up, right? When the saying that when you're an adult and you act a certain way, right, it's become your habit, right? It's a habit. So my mom always say that it takes 7 years to get rid of a habit, but she has a lot of bad habits as well. So it's okay. I'm probably, a lot of second generation Filipinos and first generation Filipinos who came here at a young age, they probably experienced this. I've talked to a lot of them actually who experienced the same thing I've experienced. I'm privileged to be here. And then when I go back to the Philippines, when I talk to my relatives, they're like, oh, you're in America, you're rich, you're this and that, you're financially capable, right? Why aren't you sharing your blessings, or why aren't you sharing, your. Basically, they just want money. So why aren't you sharing, right? That's the idea. No, it's not. That's not the case. Just because I'm in the US doesn't mean I'm rich. Just because I live abroad doesn't mean I'm rich, right? Doesn't mean I'm financially independent. Sometimes I feel like people get the wrong idea. Just because we're abroad doesn't mean, we're capable. We're paying twice as much bills, compared to the Philippines. It's the same. It's the same aspect, except you're just living abroad, which is more expensive. So it's the same thing. You're just trying to survive, making daily means of surviving, right? Paying bills, paying rent, doing all that stuff. It's the same thing, basically, right? Basically the same thing. So it's just like moving to a different economy. So you don't get paid enough in the Philippines, right? So in America, it's the same thing. There's a thing called minimum wage. And people don't realize because they think, whenever a Filipino come here, they always have, a parent who's a nurse, right? A nurse, like they make a lot of money. Of course, it's true for some Filipinos, right? But, for some Filipinos, they try to make ends meet, right? Like for those who come here, come here for the opportunity and may hopefully have a better life, right, than what they had in the Philippines. So it's no wonder why my mom always say like you are privileged to be here. Yes, I understand that, but again, what my mom doesn't understand is she doesn't understand my point of view, and she doesn't know about this. So if you heard about this, you can't tell her. Anyways, identity crisis once again. A lot of people, even nowadays, immigrants in general, they suffer some sort of identity crisis, right? There is a lot of identity crisis going on. If you live abroad, right? If you grew up, I lived half of my life in the Philippines, right? And I live half of my life in the US, or more than half of my life in the US now, right? So more than half. It's like, what am I? Am I Filipino? Am I American? Am I Asian? Or am I Pacific Islander, right? What is it? Like, everywhere I look, it's like I'm always trying to fit in, to be someone or something that I'm not. And it's no wonder people cannot understand me. It's because I'm lost, yeah? I'm just a I'm just a freak, basically. I'm an alien. I came from outer space. That's what it is. Like, my Filipino, my Tagalog is basically as far as grade 5, if that's what you're wondering. So, people always say, oh, you're so good in Tagalog, you're so fluent in Tagalog, oh, you're so fluent in English, blah, 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 right? No, I'm not. Well, I'm fluent in English, but I still struggle in English. I'm fluent in Tagalog, but it's only as far as grade 5. And no wonder people tell me, oh, you're not Filipino enough. Oh, you're not American enough. It's like, what am I supposed to be, right? Can I just be me, right? So, it's true. I know what my mom went through, so I can understand her. She worked so hard. But, sometimes there are just things that Filipino parents say, even in the movies that I watched. It's totally relatable because we don't know exactly, right? We don't know exactly what our parents went through just to get us here. We came here for a better opportunity to escape, right? To escape the life of abuse, right? Because I grew up with an abusive father. So, and that's one of the reasons why we left the Philippines. So, as you can see, it's like I had no choice, right? My grandma, which is my dad's mom, she's the one who told us to leave so that we can be free from the grasp of abuse, right? So, and I know my mom even suffered that abuse. I probably don't remember anymore because it's been such a long time. And also, it's because my brain forced me to erase that kind of memory, so that I won't be hurt. Anyway, so, but, coming to the US does not necessarily make my life any better because, it led me to a lot of things, even depression. I was starting as a child, I was already experiencing some depression, right, because of the abuse that I've suffered, right? And then it continued on from the bullying because I could not fit in, because I could not communicate, right? I could not communicate with anyone. I didn't speak. Well, I spoke basic English, right? I knew basic English, but other than that, it's like other than basic English, I have weird, pronunciations. Like the pronunciations is different. So when you come from the Philippines to the US, it's like immediately there's like a culture shock, right? Immediately there's that culture shock because Filipinos pronounce things differently from what the US pronounce, right? Like for example, broccoli, right? Some people say broccoli. What do you mean? It's broccoli, right? I used to pronounce it broccoli, but then here in America they say broccoli. Okay. Well, I want some roasted broccoli. I'm like, okay. You see what I mean? It's like, do I become American or do I become Filipino? Do I become Asian? Do I become Pacific Islander? Or can I just be myself? Because every single one of those have, like every single one of these labels, I feel like they have a negative connotation to them, right? There's a negative connotation underneath each category. So whether you're Asian, right? So what I was saying earlier, that I'm not smart enough to be Asian, right? Or Pacific Islander, I don't even know much about them. Sorry to say this. But I mean, even second generation Filipinos, they talk about that. They're like confused whether we're Asian or Pacific Islander, right? I guess it has something to do with history, right? Because we're detached. Filipinos are detached from all the other Asian countries because for the reason of colonialism, right? Colonialism, because similarly to the Mexican or people from Mexico, we are conquered by the Spaniards. So we have some sort of, again, identity crisis, right? Even within Asia, the Philippines have identity crisis. Why? Because we are far from all the other Asian, right? We are far from what they speak, right? Far from what their experience was like. So here we can already know, like, so underneath the Asian category, it's like we are already far, far away, right? Far, far away because we're separated because of colonialism, because we were conquered by the United States, we were conquered by Japan, and we were conquered by the Spaniards. So the Spaniards have a big influence on us. So when we come here to the US, usually people think that you're not Asian because you have big eyes, or you speak weird, or you don't speak Asian. When someone say Asian, they always think about the not the South, the East Asians, which is Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, right? So the Chinese, Koreans, and Japanese, that's what people usually think, right? When we say Asians. So, but Filipinos are considered Southeast Asians. I should at least know, because even Google say that we are Southeast Asians. So again, right, the identity crisis. Sometimes you don't want to be Asian because there's that negative connotation. But then I don't know much about Pacific Islanders, so that's why if you don't want to be Asian, then you're gonna claim to be Pacific Islander, right? And if you don't want to be Filipino, then you're gonna claim to be American. And if you don't want to be American, you're gonna claim to be Filipino, right? Or both, right? Exactly. You know, my question exactly is, where do I fit in, right? One of the things that I've noticed is that, in my life is I always try so hard to fit in. So whenever Filipinos see me, whether online, in real life, right? Oh, you've been here for a while, blah, 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 blah. They always say to me, oh, you don't say the po or opo, right? It's because, I live in America and I've adapted to the American culture. My mom always tells me to try so hard to fit in, right? What do I fit into, right? The American culture, of course. And what does the American culture say? But then the American culture, there's a contradiction with the Filipino culture. So there are some American tradition that is different from the Filipino tradition. Like, for example, New Year, right? Everybody go out on New Year with their friends, but Filipino, no, you have to stay with your family. It's like there's that obligation with the family. It's like all these obligation, family first, family this, family that. Like, I can understand that, but it's sort of suffocating sometimes, right? So it's like there's two point of view, right? There's two cultures. Like, it's a culture shock. That's what I call it. I'm always stuck in between. Like, I don't know what to be. So, which side do I pick? Right? Am I Filipino? Am I American? Am I Asian? Am I Pacific Islander? I don't know. You know, like, whenever I encounter somebody, like, okay, yeah, whenever I see a Filipino, I just tell them, okay, yeah, I'm Filipino. And then whenever I see someone who's, you know, Asian, I tell them I'm Asian. But sometimes they say, oh, you're not. But, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter whether I'm Filipino, you know, whether I've adapted to the American culture, you know. It's like my experience is very, like, confusing. It's really confusing, right? Whenever you're struggling, whenever you have an identity crisis, you don't know where to put yourself, right? I don't know where to put myself. I don't know what to do with myself, right? And these things can lead to depression, actually. And I've suffered that for many years. Actually, I've suffered it for many years, and it's not only me, right? It's not only me. There's probably a lot of Filipinos who go through this, and at least second generation Filipinos. You know, I've been watching some videos about, you know, Filipino movies about second generation Filipinos in the US, and I could totally relate to that, right? I could totally relate to any sort of second generation. I guess whether we're Filipino or some other race, you know, we always have something we go through, right? Which is we are underneath a similar umbrella, which is the identity crisis. And another thing that people notice is my skin color, right? Skin color. Like, you're not Asian, you're somewhat tan. No, Asians are pale. Or you're not American because look at your color, right? You're not Filipino, something like that. You're kind of too dark, right? Some Filipinos are like pale skinned, or that's because they use whitening, you know, cream, some sort of whitening, right? Like, oh, you're not Filipino, you're too dark, blah 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 blah, right? Like, there's always a negative connotations, and you know, I'm getting sick of that, and I wanted to talk about that. And so this has been my experience about identity crisis, right? I don't know what to be, whether starting with being a boy or a girl, like, or am I a girl that just dressed up like a boy, or do I really feel like I want to become a boy? Probably not. Probably not now. I wouldn't want that. But before, you know, even with even with gender, wow, even with gender, like, I was confused. Like, a lot of people are changing me to be girly, right? You know, to be girly, but that's something that I'm not comfortable with. Anyways, also because it has to do with my MBTI personality type. I'm INTP, and we're known to be tomboyish, right? We're known to be tomboyish because why? We somewhat have the personality of a male, right? So that's why it's rare, it's uncommon for females to be INTPs. There's not a lot of them in the world, so no wonder I feel like sometimes I cannot relate to the female population, right? I cannot communicate with them, but yet at the same time, I understand what they're going through, but I have a hard time talking to them. I feel like it's easier to talk to, you know, the opposite gender because we have similar personality type, and because, you know, we like the same thing. We have a common mutual ground, right? We have a common mutual ground, so that's why I can relate to them. But still, right? It's like, I'm also an introvert, but yet I'm an introvert who don't like reading. See, another identity crisis. Like most introverts, they like reading, right? But no, it's just not my learning style. That's what it is, right? It's true that I don't like reading, but that's why they invented audiobooks for, right? It's like I feel like reading takes a lot of brain cells, It's like I don't have the stamina, right? The strength. Don't get me wrong, I still can read, right? I can read. But, to a certain extent, is like sometimes, I'm a visual learner, right? Or I'm an audio learner. So I learn by hearing, or I learn by seeing, or by doing, even kinesthetic, which means learning by feeling or by doing something. So I feel like even in education, they lack certain things. So it's mostly about memorization. So once again, another right identity crisis. I feel like I've been talking about this so much, but anyways, guys, if you can relate to me in this video, right? If you can relate to my experience, please give this video a like. And if you can relate to my experience, leave me a comment down below. What kind of experience you've had about identity crisis, right? Whether it's about gender, whether it's about being Filipino or American like me, or being Asian or Pacific Islander, right? So there's a lot of confusion. But guys, this is just an experience. An experience, right? They shape us to be who we are today, right? So my experience shaped me to be who I am today and to be a better person. It doesn't matter whether I fit in or not, whether I'm Filipino or American, right? As long as I just improve myself to be better, right? To become a better person. It doesn't matter where I fit in or where I belong. Sometimes, we feel like we need a sense of belonging, but for me, it's like I don't need to belong anywhere. I just need to be myself, right? Be honest with myself, right? So, and the problem is that people don't always allow me to be who I am, to be myself, right? They won't allow me to be myself because they just want to change, right? My personality and the way I am and the way I tackle things and the way I talk, right? So, and whether you're someone who can accept me for me and whether you're someone who wants to change me because I have a flaws, just remember that nobody's perfect, right? We all have flaws. So, no one's perfect. We all have flaws. So, and if you have a similar experience to me, please let me know. I would like to get to know you better, right? About your identity crisis. And once again, guys, this is the Essential Reason. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope that you like this video, right? So this is my experience living in the United States with identity crisis, right? So disclaimer, I'm not trying to offend anyone. This is just part of my experience. So if there's anything I said that is offensive to anyone, it's not meant to offend anyone. It's just confusion. It's just identity crisis. Not knowing where you belong, not knowing who you are. It's like the feeling that you are lost, right? Anyways, guys, once again, this is the Essential Reason. Thank you so much. And I've talked for so long. I'm gonna end my video right here. Thank you so much. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. And once again, please leave me a comment Thank you so much, guys. I will see you soon in my next video. Bye bye.